That key is
For
very
us,
private.
the machine will do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right.
What do we have here? What's this? Oh, it's James Andrews. Okay. Hey, James, you there? Who knows? Okay. Let's see if I can hit Chris.
And the molds were made on a 3D printer.
Yes, that's what I understand.
Cookies were not made on a 3D printer.
No.
I have seen that done, actually. You can make a and put into a 3D printer that is edible.
Where did you see that?
Ooh.
There's a fellow who does, he calls it Groucho Fractal is the project.
Here in Austin or where?
Now, he unveiled the project at a festival called Boom in Portugal, and he's actually from, I think, Chicago and San Francisco.
Yeah, I think we're going to go with this. By the way, have a Bitcoin cookie.
Oh, thank you.
Gene, you want to go ahead and be first since my other guys are not online? And I have your presentation over here.
Okay.
So you want me to just punch the button for you?
Yeah, that'll work.
Now, you're going to have to be on the, I have to point this at you so that you can talk. Yeah, I don't think you can stand in front of the projector. Why don't you stand up this way, and I'll point at you that way. And let's see. We'll put, it's not,
I can get close to the screen.
see, I think this will work just fine. And then when you get to your presentation, all I have to do is run the presentation. What a short video cord. Oh, it went off. Why did it go off? Okay. I'm not working on it. Okay. You want me to pull it up?
Yeah. But you had to get those like 2 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah,
Let's do it this way. Just stay out of the way. All right. Da, 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 da. Hey, somebody's here. Hello.
Hi, it's Chris from Brussels.
Hey, Chris.
How are you
Okay,
doing?
we're doing fine.
Good.
We're having all kinds of technical difficulties.
So I understand.
Yeah, yeah. So we're about to do. Let's see. Zoom in to fit the screen. How do I do a presentation? Can't do it that way. All right. Okay. So we'll do it this way. Oh, by the way, can y'all hear Chris? Chris, why don't you talk?
Can you hear me over there? Is that loud enough?
Yep.
You able to hear me?
Okay. Good. Good. Better than we expected. We didn't get the sound system in the room either. It's just all crap. What can I say? Okay. So that's that. Where's my folder? Pearson Law. I don't know if you tested on LibreOffice, but you don't have a lot of graphs, so it should be okay. I ran through it once, and it looked okay. Otherwise, we're just really annoyed. Okay, who cares? Yeah, well, I generally aim for these things to start at 3:15 anyway, but so we're not that far off, but just because of the difficulty of dealing with campus. Okay, slideshow. Show, and then I need to go over here. All right, and then I want to share the desktop, and I'm going to go here, start screen share. Chris, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see that.
All right. Well, let's get the show on the road. Let me just as some opening remarks. This is a Bitcoin meetup, and we're having a mini Bitcoin series. The idea is to just get a few interesting topics out there and educate people about Bitcoin and bring more people into what's going on. It needs to work for people, and that's really kind of the impetus of this particular conference. Gene's going to go over a lot of the patent law with us, and I'm just going to let you go. You can introduce yourself. And
I'm
so
Gene
forth.
Pearson. I'm a patent attorney. I have Bitcoins and got interested. And for my presentation, essentially, I'm not sure how many of you guys know about what is a patent at a high level, and then go through how they apply to Bitcoin patent applications that are currently pending with the USPTO, and then a recent court case that established that Bitcoin is currency at the federal level. So I can just go through it quick. Okay. As I just said, this is the matter that we're going to discuss. What is a patent? Patentable subject matter with the USPTO. What are patent claims? Prior art. Obviousness standard when you're combining prior art references. This is important in Bitcoins because at a base level it is a form of currency, and when you're trying to apply for patents, there could be issues with how banks are doing other online transactions that are secured, credit card transactions, some of the new fob transaction series that they're just out there. And then we're going to go over some patent claims for some new Bitcoin patent applications, and then pending cases. At a high level, what is a patent? A patent is any new useful process, machine, manufacture, composition thereof. This is under federal law 35 U.S.C. Section 101. Patents provide patent owners with exclusive rights to their invention. That these exclusive rights are to limit other people's from making, using, selling, importing, and exporting. And with Bitcoins, this is important because over the internet, pretty much if you're, I'm not sure what standards would be held for importing and exporting Bitcoins, but transactions over the internet, if they're on domains that are tied to U.S. addresses, would apply to all Bitcoin applications, because it seems like a lot of transactions would occur with servers based in the U.S. A couple years ago, there was a recent patent case which dealt with software patents, or patents in general for things that you can't touch. Pretty much software-based patent applications. People were programming inventions, but there wasn't really sure where the USPTO or the Federal Circuit would stand on if you could patent software. A patent case in Ray Bilski, they established that you can patent software if you tie the software to a particular machine, or the other way that you can patent software is if it transforms particular article of manufacture. That limitation is more so geared towards chemistry patents, but the way you can tie Bitcoin patents to software, it's easy. To machines, it's tie it to computer processors, just with the topology that goes into Bitcoin patents, there needs to be some sort of data that's transferred over a network, and obviously the network's going to have some sort of back-end servers. You're going to need an end-user computer to produce whatever type of transaction you're doing. If you're buying stuff online via Bitcoins, there's going to be an end-user processor, display, and stuff like that, which are hard computer elements, hardware computer elements. So they definitely are patentable, but if you're writing the patent yourself, you just need to remember to tie it to either a specific network, servers, computers, actual hardware elements. And at that point, it's fairly low hurdle, but just something that you can't just say, my patent application's based on transferring Bitcoins over the internet, because then it's not tied to a tangible medium. Yeah, it's something else that people seem to know, business process and business methods. Cases have gone down of people, just how they conduct their normal business, and they want to try to get a business method patent on it. But the methods themselves, if it's just the way you go around doing something, like the way I walk is I take 2 fast steps and then 1 big leap. You can't patent that because it's not tied to a particular machine apparatus. But if you expand that out to business methods, the way people conduct deals and stuff, I guess the way the software kind of automates a lot of processes, that's where the business methods come in, that you just have to make sure that they're tied to a particular machine. Yes?
Are we learning about patents and it's important to patent the Bitcoin process so that people are just through the system, or will the patent law prevent Bitcoin from doing something?
Patent law never really will prevent anything except for if somebody else gets a patent on it and they invent the invention first. I guess we can jump right into prior art and we can come back to here. Some way that you can limit somebody else from making an invention is if you invent it first. That's what's known in patent world prior art. So essentially somebody can get a patent unless somebody else invented it first or was described in a printed publication on public use sale. So if somebody was to invent something dealing with Bitcoin, published an article, then somebody else could then later come. This is for everything in general, to keep things open source based. Make sure you publish things if you're not really that interested in obtaining a patent, but you don't want other people to later independently invent it and just want to monetize what they've spent their efforts into. But essentially, prior art, as I was discussing, that anybody can get a patent on anything, including Bitcoins. They don't need to invent the base system, the blind handshakes on the back end. But if they find ways to improve Bitcoin technology, they can obtain a patent on that small space. I used to write patents for Alcatel-Lucent. They would do a lot of telecom stuff. They're smaller than AT&T, Verizon, but a lot of telecom patents, and they would get patents on just pushing data instead of having the telephones have to send a request for it. And so just eliminating the step of sending a command from your phone, just the base station, the cell tower, sending it automatically, they were able to obtain small patents on that technology. So for Bitcoins, the base system is there, but people will probably try to monetize improvements that they make. Maybe, I don't know.
So just a question about printed publication, so no video, is something
Printed publication would be, anything, YouTube video, anything that somebody can find.
Okay.
Twitter post.
Okay.
Not an actual public, because at one time you needed to be in an actual publication.
At one time you did, as long as people can find it in journals. This is something that gets heavily litigated, because what happens is when you file a patent application, they'll look at the person in the patent office will do a review of your claims, and typically they're based off patents and journal entries and stuff of that nature. But then when the patents get litigated, people have a lot more time to find out what was the prior art in whatever the universe it is. So people will spend hundreds of hours trying to invalidate the patent, where somebody at the patent office will have a lot less time. But printed publications can be something as similar as posting. I guess in this case you can't, but if you invented a hardware machine, you posted a picture to Instagram. You can even bar yourself from later obtaining a patent if it's more than a year. You make a hardware invention, take a picture, you post it, you write about a couple blog posts about it. Your prior art would limit you from even getting a patent on your invention because you made it publicly available. The purpose of that is they don't want people to make inventions publicly available. Somebody else comes and you realize 4 or 5 years down the line, oh, I'm selling all these products, it's really good, but there's also the knockoffs in that point, and then you at that point decide you want to stop other people. You kind of have to start it from the beginning. I guess going back to when you draft a patent application, at the back of the patent application, you draft a set of claims, and people draft a set of claims based off their improvements that they are doing in whatever subject matter they are handling. So you'll see a lot of different patent applications and inventions directed towards a lot of different similar things. Automobiles, car doors, everything will have thousands of patent applications written on it. But the patent claims will define what your scope of the patent is. So when you read, if you're looking at a patent application, looking at the claims at the end is important, because if you just look at the drawings, things can look very similar. Claim construction is just when you draft claims, every single word will be analyzed. If you're saying you're determining something, a computer's determining something, it can't be done automatically because there's a determination meant, and it's just very finely written that you have to analyze what the words actually mean. It's important in Bitcoins when there's multiple computing devices, and some of the computer devices might be receiving and sending and transmitting data, that you make sure that what is sending data is actually sending the data, and what's receiving the data is actually receiving it. Because if you do the opposite, then the claims won't make sense, and somebody might not infringe on your patent application. So something that I see interesting dealing with Bitcoins will deal with other security methods that banks are currently using on online transactions. When somebody's making a new invention, but it might be building on something else that's already out there, there's an obviousness standard that you need to overcome. It's similar if you're making an invention for a bicycle and you see that cars have headlights, so you want to reduce the amount of accidents on bicycles, so you're going to put headlights on the bicycle. Somebody at the patent office would say, well, it'd be obvious that the same thing, you're trying to shine lights in front of a moving vehicle. So just adding bells and whistles to a patent or combining different elements, you can't do that. Or somebody won't give you a patent on it. There was a famous case, KSR, International Telefax, when car pedals used to be, when you press them to set the accelerator, the mechanical force on the pedal would determine how fast you were going to go. But then later as technology grew, it just turned into an electronic sensor, and they said technology has grown. We know that people can measure stuff by electronic sensors to measure pressure. It'd be obvious to combine the mechanical differences to electrical sensors. So that's kind of getting hello, new person. Coming towards the Bitcoins, as I was saying, it's going to be interesting to see how the USPTO and federal circuits later determine online banking and credit card stock exchanges and other transactions, how they relate to Bitcoins, because Bitcoins, I'm sure a lot of the banks already have cryptology software and implementations done that might be similar to how Bitcoin's done online now. So now I'm just going to go over several applications that have currently pending applications. So they're not published patents yet, or they're not patented yet, but just currently pending with the USPTO. This application, this is one of the figures from it. It's directed towards a physical device that carries a value and can be physically delivered in a transaction. Essentially, they're trying to make this company, I'm sorry I did not get the title or the name, but they're trying to make a physical Bitcoin that you can carry it and it can display the value of the Bitcoin itself. It's a physical device, carries value. It includes the main things the patent features are going towards is a security feature that can change from a state indicating that the value carried by the physical device has not been compromised, so somebody hasn't used the Bitcoin value yet, and that the change is detectable. This is one of the patent claims that is one of the broader claims in this patent application. And as I said, there's 3 different limitations here. That one goes towards the representation of the value carried by the physical device. An issue I see with that limitation itself is just a gift card. A gift card will carry a representation of the value. iTunes gift card, $50. Okay. Then the representation being usable to transfer the value from the physical device to the digital domain. When you're purchasing a gift card, some of them have codes that you have to type in if you're going to be using them online. That would be obvious, kind of obvious there, or that would read on this claim. And the security feature that can change from a state indicating the value. Some gift cards I know have scratchers that you need to activate the code first, so you scratch them and then you type in the value. That could be read as a security feature that changes the state, that the physical device has been compromised. If somebody gave you a gift card and it's already been scratched and activated, you might think that the gift card's been compromised or doesn't carry value anymore. I guess I'm going to go through, fast forward through these. Another patent application is directed towards a gaming system. This is very light, but that is a slot machine there. And its patent application is geared towards a gaming system enabling players to wager amount of bitcoins. And if the player wagers an amount of bitcoins on the game, based on the outcome of the game, they will get a certain amount of bitcoins back or other prizes. These are the patent claims here for this application, which, going back towards the obviousness standard, it seems like this patent reads on a standard slot machine, but you're just replacing bitcoins for money. When you're doing that, it's likely the patent office will just say that there was, you're just replacing a form of currency for a different form of currency, so that would be obvious. So just when you are drafting claims and patent applications, it's important to remember the obviousness standard. There was, I guess I'm going to jump a couple and go straight into a recent case that came out where it was in Texas. Courts are only able to hear cases that they have subject matter on. A criminal court can't hear a civil court. Federal courts can't hear stuff that's only in-state matters. So to have a federal court hear a case, they have to have subject matter over the case. And here the SEC, in this case, there's a Bitcoin Ponzi scheme, I'm not sure, alleged Ponzi scheme, and the crux of the court decision was whether the Federal Circuit had jurisdiction to hear the case. And the SEC, one of their jurisdictions, is over any security, bond, stock, treasury stock, security bond, or future investment contract. And if Bitcoins weren't held to be currency, then the Federal Circuit wouldn't have jurisdiction over the case. And I guess the main holding in this case was the defendant in this case argued that Bitcoins isn't money, and when he was receiving Bitcoins, he never received actual cash. But the SEC stated that because you can use bitcoins to purchase other purchase goods or services that bitcoins are currency, and therefore the Federal Circuit will have jurisdiction over Bitcoin cases. And that's just important going forward, I guess. It's just interesting because federal laws, if you violate federal laws such as doing illegal transactions over state lines or in a plurality of states, then your charges will be heightened versus if you're just keeping them in one state. So that's just interesting going forward. It's Michael Vick, when he had his dog fighting cases, the dog fighting itself in Virginia, I think, was punishable by like a $10,000 fine. But because dog fighting across state lines and transporting dogs to fight, that's where he got a much larger sentence, both in jail and monetarily. Because just
monetarily.
I forget what he had to pay, but if he just had kept everything in Virginia, I think it wouldn't have been a jail sentence and it would have been like a $100,000 fine, and that's it. But just because bitcoins, once again going back to the internet, it's going to be throughout the whole United States, and it appears the SEC will have jurisdiction over Bitcoin.
Do we have to worry about international law?
I don't really know. So I wouldn't want to say something. But I mean, this is only if you're doing something illegal, So just if you're doing something illegal with bitcoins, it appears that it's the same thing that with cash. If you're buying drugs with bitcoins, it's going to be held that you're buying drugs with cash.
There's also taxes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Tariffs and things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So just treat it as currency on the international level.
Yeah, how it would be taxed, I don't know. But just this was the first case that came out dealing with bitcoins as currency. It would be interesting to see how taxation goes.
Haven't other countries recently recognized it as a currency, like France or
they have?
Argentina or something?
They have.
Germany.
Yeah.
Germany only?
That was the one that was in the news.
So this means that we recognize it now too, in this case.
Yes.
And only this case, no other law has come out. This
has been at the lowest level of the SEC, the district court level.
The Securities and Exchange Commission is looking into it.
Exactly. Cases can always be appealed, and at some point, if it goes up to the Supreme Court would, it could in the future, it could get changed.
But this is our first step in precedent.
Exactly.
In court precedent, though, most of the guidance we have right now is by all the standard anti-money laundering, your customer standards that we do.
Yeah.
Essentially standards.
About transport requirements.
FinCEN is the department.
Do you have to go to the next presentation?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk to me after work?
Yeah. Let me. I'm going to try to keep this conference within our time frame and not let it run away. So, thank you. Hey, Chris, how are you?
Okay, the argument,
Hey, sorry, I just
you can buy something there.
switched the mic off there so that I didn't cut in by accident.
Okay, let me try to grab someone else here real quick. Do a little debugging of one other thing here. Let's see. Compose. Did that link I send you, did that work for you, Chris?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. I'm just checking because Mrs. P out of Hawaii was having trouble, so I'm sending her the link. And is your screen really black? Do I have to that's what I have to do. Ah, there we go.
There we go.
All right. Okay, let's see. Well, Chris, 1 second. Let me check and see if this is. I need to connect with our gal in Hawaii. We were having little technical difficulties, and I was trying to do it, but we have to use the computer. So just 1 second, and then we'll kick off the next presentation. By the way, the judge, whose name slips my mind, I tried to look it up, couldn't find it. I talked to him a week ago. He is, as soon as the case clears his court, he'll present to us, and so there's a good chance that we'll have him in one of these series here soon. He was actually very, very, well, I talked to his law clerk, but the law clerk tells me he's very, very excited about being able to present his ruling, and he's thinking about his ruling and what he thinks Bitcoin is going to do in the legal system within the U.S. But he can't say anything until this case clears his court. So that, I'm really thrilled about that. I also got to talk to Karen Holmes, I can't get her last name, the World Bank lawyer that left the World Bank, talking about the corruption in the World Bank, and she came out, she's on Reddit here recently, and next month she will present for us. There'll have to be another remote connection, but I'm looking forward to that presentation too. So we've got some good people lined up. Is she in Singapore? I don't know where she is. I don't think she's in Singapore. Was that where she was when she was interviewed by that guy? Okay, could be. But she said she was going to her niece's baby shower. So I got the impression she was in the U.S., but she could have nieces in Singapore. I don't know. Okay. Ah, you're there. I was sitting here trying to find you on my phone. Okay, so I think we're good. Chris, Ms. P, I'm going to let you go next. I'll let Chris go because he's been waiting for hours because I got the timer on. Okay.
No, it's fine actually. Yeah, I can wait. I'd love to see this other presentation. So.
Okay. Well, Ms. P, do you want to go? It's up to either way. I'm happy either way. Can you hear me? You can't hear me. I have to. What do I have to do? Can you talk? Oh, you're not coming across. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, yes.
Yay!
Okay, you're very, very dark.
Yeah, well, you know, my face isn't going to be showing for very long, so...
That's true.
How's that?
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll turn off the lights for just a minute or two. This will be fine. All right. Oh, by the way, everyone is already indulged in your cookies because we had
Yay!
we had technical difficulties, and I tried to soothe the roaring beasts by handing out cookies. It turned out to be a godsend.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Okay, so you're up now. If anybody has trouble hearing, you'll just have to get closer, okay? And
yeah, I'm sorry. Is my voice faint, or can you hear me all right?
No, we can, but you're not hooked into the room's audio.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You're up. Go for it.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and share my screen here. One moment. All right. Well, Paul, thank you for inviting me to speak to everybody today. This is kind of cool. I haven't really given any presentations on Bitcoin yet, so this is great. I'm really glad that I'm here today. My name is Pua Pyland, better known as Mrs. P, and I'm going to talk to you guys today about women in Bitcoin, or as I like to call it, the network strength that no one is talking about. So let me first tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. I'm broadcasting to you from Hawaii, where I was raised, and I live here with my husband and 4 children. I have a background in clinical information systems as an application analyst, educator, and project manager. My husband and I are huge Bitcoin enthusiasts, and we first invested in Bitcoin back in 2011. We started mining full-time about a year and a half ago, and because of this, we've been fortunate enough to leave our day jobs in the corporate IT world and focus on our Bitcoin ventures full time. So a little bit about the Bitcoin related projects I'm involved in. Bitcoin Hawaii is a group my husband and I formed this year, and we're actively working to create awareness among businesses and the community, as we feel Bitcoin can play a significant role here in Hawaii with not only the tourism industry, but also the huge remittance market that exists. We have a fairly decent number of enthusiasts out here, but currently there are only 2 businesses accepting Bitcoin in Hawaii, so we have a lot of work to do. We hold monthly meetings, we have some educational presentations in the works, as well as our own Hawaiian-style Satoshi Square. So you'll be seeing more information come out about that over the coming months. I'm best known in social media circles as the Bitcoin Wife. I started the first, and I think the only thus far, female-centric site about Bitcoin. It's just a lighthearted blog where I muse about being a Bitcoiner, and I promote Bitcoin-friendly businesses and their products from the perspective of a wife and mother. It has been a really fun pet project for me, and I enjoy being a cheerleader for companies who accept Bitcoin. And some of the Bitcoin businesses I review offer discounts on their products, and if they send me free swag, I pass it along to my readers through fun giveaways. My blog has led me to my newest venture, which will be writing columns for Bitcoin Magazine. My focus will continue to be around products and services for Bitcoin with a strong emphasis on the female vantage point. I'm really excited to partner with them and hopefully bring a different voice to the table. And my very small contribution to the spirit of growing the Bitcoin ecosystem is the Cookie Pounder, which I'll discuss that further at the end of my presentation. And lastly, and to a very much lesser extent, I started to moderate Our Bitcoin Ladies, which is a Bitcoin subreddit for women. It's just a very small space right now, mostly consisting of me talking to myself. But I wanted to acknowledge the existence of it because I felt it was pertinent to our discussion today. Get started. I'm here to talk to you about what no one seems to want to talk about. I started the Bitcoin Wife out of a rant I had over the somewhat disappointing piece about Bitcoin on the Stephen Colbert show back in April. If any of you remember it, the biggest takeaway was basically Bitcoin is cool and all, but you can only buy drugs with it. And that was the same frustrating sentiment that had been permeated in the mainstream media at the time. And I knew this to be false because both my husband and I had bought several things, practical things with Bitcoin. So I thought that I would just start talking about it, and hopefully by being vocal about my personal experiences, I would not only serve a small purpose, but also hopefully connect with other women in Bitcoin. And along the way, I have become keenly aware of 2 important issues that I think we need to start talking about if we want to see healthy growth in the Bitcoin economy. One issue is that there just aren't enough women visibly in the Bitcoin community. And 2, people aren't really spending their Bitcoin and supporting these Bitcoin accepting merchants. And I think if we start at least considering the former, we can elegantly solve the latter. So, how bad is it? Let's take a look at some of the statistics being thrown around, and some of them are anecdotal, some of them are pretty foretelling. It's been said that the ratio of men to women at the Bitcoin conference earlier this year was easily 50-1, and that's including booth girls and journalists. I attended with my husband, and I think that's actually a pretty generous estimate. These are some of the photos I took there and posted on my blog, and I really had to scour to find a single woman in these group shots. That little head circled in there, I'm pretty sure it's Teresa Warmke of Free Aid, which is a Bitcoin-only charity organization. She participated in the only all-women panel at Bitcoin 2013. And I think this visual depiction is pretty indicative of what we see online as well. Surveys in the past have shown that 96% of the Bitcoin demographic is male. Women are so rare that we've become a meme of our own non-existence. We're even a red light for scams. Bitcoin talk forums warn newbies not to trust posters blatantly claiming to be a woman because they are probably scammers. And almost all of the articles in the media currently about women in Bitcoin have been around the subreddit Girls Gone Bitcoin. Not that there's anything wrong with taking your clothes off for Bitcoin, but that's a totally different conversation to have. But you're probably asking, why does this even matter? Why does it matter if there are more women involved in using Bitcoin? So I'm going to throw out some more statistics for you. Globally, women consumers control $20 trillion in consumer spending. They make the final decisions for 91% of home purchases, 65% of the new cars, 80% of the healthcare choices, 66% of computers, and in the U.S. specifically, more than 80% of spending is controlled by women. So in regards to buying power, women really hold the lion's share. And here's something else interesting to consider. Dr. Genevieve Bell is an anthropologist who is a researcher at Intel, and she's studied trends in technology extensively. And she says if you want to find out what the future looks like, you should be asking women. Women are the new lead adopters. They use the internet more than men. They are the vast majority owners of all internet-enabled devices, such as readers, healthcare devices, GPS. That whole bundle of technology is mostly owned by women. There's this long history of women as being the tamers of big technologies. For them, it's not this glossy new thing, but something that becomes part of daily life. And historically, that's what one of the things women do. We make things into things that become part of our everyday lives. So statistically, women are this wonderful amalgam of purchasing power and mass adopters of technology. We're like the perfect Bitcoin user. So does this mean we need some sort of marketing ploy to lure us into Bitcoin? Absolutely not. And that's definitely not what I'm here to say. What I'm advocating for is a grassroots approach among us all for each of us to take ownership of the issue and consider how we can change the current state of affairs. I approached other women in the Bitcoin community and asked them to weigh in on this issue, and I loved that what they had to say is directly in line with this call to arms that I'm going to call the Share, Talk, Do initiative. Share, Talk, Do, or the STD, because that is how quickly we can spread the word. So let's get to it. Stephanie Murphy, who is totally the first woman of Bitcoin, she's the podcast host of Let's Talk Bitcoin, she says that if we current Bitcoin users want more women to be involved in Bitcoin, let's tell all of our female friends about it and help them get started using it. There's nothing about Bitcoin that excludes women or doesn't appeal to us. One of the best things about Bitcoin is that it's completely neutral with respect to who can use it. Bitcoin is for everyone. All we have to do is give a little bit of extra attention to sharing Bitcoin with the people who are currently not aware of it, which is most people. And when there are more visible women in the Bitcoin community, other ladies will see that and feel more comfortable joining us too. So this is the share step. Stephanie told me that she got into Bitcoin because she had friends that were really excited about it, and they helped her answer her questions and how to set up a Bitcoin wallet, gave her some coins. And if it weren't for that personal attention and them wanting to share what they were excited about with her, she didn't think that she would have found about Bitcoin on her own, or at least it would have taken her longer to get started. And that's all it really takes. I myself have fallen victim to shying away from trying to explain Bitcoin to my girlfriends or my family because it can be a really daunting task. But sharing your excitement is easy, and that's what makes others excited. I love to tell a story about my kids going on vacation to Disneyland with my parents over this past summer. And while they were there, my parents had mentioned that they were thinking about eating at the Rainforest Cafe that day for lunch, which is over at downtown Disney. So I thought I would buy a gift card to the restaurant through gift with Bitcoin, and I instructed my dad on how to use it. And I was able to treat them and my kids to an impromptu lunch 2,500 miles away within minutes. And that's a pretty amazing feat. And my once skeptical parents were blown away by that gesture. And, you know, they've never considered investing before, but now they are. And so I think sharing our excitement and making that our focal point is crucial to getting people interested. This is my daughter, by the way. Okay, Elizabeth Plauché, she's the manager of communications for Bitcoin Magazine and is also the only female candidate for the Bitcoin Foundation individual seat election, which ends today, so if you're a foundation member, you better vote. This is where we talk. And as one of a handful of females currently working to promote Bitcoin, she says that she hopes to foster a greater understanding and embrace of Bitcoin to an extent that crosses geographic and gender-based boundaries. While the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space is currently dominated by men, there's much need for women to learn more about how valuable Bitcoin is as a currency and an investment opportunity. Now, Elizabeth says that as a member of the Bitcoin Foundation, she's working to pay extra attention to those details, from how the community presents itself at conferences and advertising and messaging. It's key to be sensitive to anything that might deter women from choosing to learn about Bitcoin. And the key thing here is that women listen to other women. We are the word-of-mouth proponents for the internet. So by encouraging others to be vocal and visible about their experiences and their thoughts about Bitcoin as a woman, I think we're going to see our user base grow. And it doesn't, nor should it be this pigeonholed perspective. I personally talk about products I buy with Bitcoin because that was the niche I wanted to fill. I wanted to prove Bitcoin's real-world tangibility and show that there are very normal and useful things out there that you can buy with Bitcoin, and that spending Bitcoin is a good thing. It's great to save, but it's also great to spend as well. Too many of the businesses I speak to say that their Bitcoin sales are slow to non-existent, and I hope that I'm doing my part to change that. This is just a collage of some of the things that we've bought with Bitcoin over the years. But I guess my point is that there needs to be more and different voices out there advocating for all the various aspects of Bitcoin. We need to get women talking. Andrea Castillo, she's a research associate at Mercatus Center, and she says, you don't need to be a Bitcoin developer to make an impact. Are you good at making things? Start a Bitcoin business. Get your girlfriends involved. Good at making videos? Do that. Good at planning events or organizing? Why not offer to do event management for your local Bitcoin startup? The Bitcoin community is rapidly growing and needs these skills more than ever. By finding ways to apply your specific skills towards creating value within the Bitcoin community, you will provide an example for other women interested in Bitcoin and lower the psychological costs of getting involved. So we've got women interested by sharing our knowledge. We've got women talking about what they think. Now it's time to participate. And Andrea's spot on. Bitcoin is an all-encompassing technology and community, and it's not hard to apply your passions to help further the growth of the Bitcoin economy. So this is the do. One of the easiest ways to obtain Bitcoin and to participate is by selling your goods and providing your services. We need to encourage women to do that. And it's because it's one of the unique participatory facets of the Bitcoin community. Our collective talents kind of run the gamut, and there's absolutely no barrier to entry if you're offering your skills or your wares or your help. So that's it, the share, talk, do. And this is my do. This is my small part in the ecosystem. I started selling Bitcoin cookie cutters back in July that I made with our little 3D printer at home, just as a fun side project. We were waiting for our ASIC miners to come in the mail, and we needed to focus on something else besides twiddling our fingers. So we decided to come up with a Bitcoin cookie cutter. And I wasn't really expecting people to be interested, but surprisingly, demand has quickly exceeded our ability to create enough of them. So I decided to go full production and create a product that I'm hoping will extend beyond the Bitcoin niche. The Cookie Pounder is a beautifully designed cookie stamp that consists of a wood handle base and has a removable food-grade silicone sleeve. You can easily interchange designs. I'm also making a Litecoin stamp and some Hawaiian-themed designs that I'm going to market here in Hawaii. And hopefully if there's enough interest, I'll expand it to a full line of various stamps, crypto and non-crypto alike. And I know cookies seem kind of silly, but you would not believe the response that I've gotten. I already have pre-orders from Germany, Sweden, Australia, especially Israel. The guys over at Bitcoin Israel are asking for their own crypto coin stamps, and they're just really excited about it. And I think it's because people want to spread awareness with something that's tangible and memorable. And cookies are great because they're cheap and easy to make, and they're delicious, and it makes people happy. So they're perfect for meetups and conventions. If you're a storefront accepting Bitcoin, having some cookies at the register is a great way to promote it. Someone has even suggested to me maybe possibly printing a public key on a sticker for the front of the bag and including a private key inside, making it a truly edible Bitcoin. And even if you don't like cookies, because it's made out of silicone, you can use it as a regular stamp on paper and packages with an ink pad. So the stamps are being finalized this week, and we'll start full production. So I fully expect these to be ready in time for the holidays, and I think they'll make the perfect gift for any Bitcoin enthusiast. So that's my shameless plug. Okay, so back to women. Share, talk, do. This is how we foster diversity in the community, and I think we'll see a parallel growth within our user base and our supporting businesses. I'm really excited to share that we have women who are already doing their part. One big success has been the formation of a Women in Bitcoin group in San Francisco. They just had their first meeting last Wednesday, and it was a huge success. They had representatives from Bitcoin companies as well as some newcomers, and their mission is really focusing on building that awareness, the partnerships and relationships, providing education, and promoting business development for women in the Bitcoin space. And this is really where the rubber meets the road. Growing the female user base in Bitcoin and encouraging women to speak up about their experiences and their thoughts is going to bring different perspectives and cultivate the new ideas that the Bitcoin economy can benefit from. Like Genevieve Bell said, women are the tamers of big technologies, and I think we're ready for that paradigm shift in Bitcoin. So let's start talking. That is my talk. I just kind of wanted to get through it so I know that there's other people waiting. But thank you for listening to me. You can contact me through thebitcoinwife.com. If you're interested in the cookie stamps, you can go to thecookiepounder.com. And if you're ever in Hawaii, I encourage you to contact us and come hang out with us and have a beer and talk about Bitcoin. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys if anyone has any questions or comments for me.
How many women do you think are in this group today?
I have no idea.
What do we have? We have a 5. 5 out of how many? 5 out of 20.
Oh, those are amazing odds. That's awesome. Good job, Austin.
It's all Stephen Wilkinson's fault.
I've got a question here. I don't know if you can hear me. What is your feeling about the reaction from women about Bitcoin? Just kind of first reactions. I mean, obviously, we know from, as you say, there are a lot of men involved with Bitcoin.
You know, the interesting thing, when I first started my website, I think a lot of women were put off by it because I think they felt that, you know, being kind of one of the earlier voices in Bitcoin, I think they wanted to see a collective representation of all the women involved, and really you just can't do that. There's so many different reasons why people want to get involved in Bitcoin, and I certainly wasn't trying to be everyone's cup of tea. I just wanted to offer my views and my perspectives. So far, I've actually had more male supporters of the website than women. And I think that Bitcoin really parallels the tech space in that there's just not a lot of women around, and the women that are around, when I worked in corporate IT, like we just kind of felt like we didn't want to have to acknowledge that we were women and that it didn't matter. And I think that we've kind of grown beyond that in the Bitcoin space. It does matter. It does matter what our feelings and our perspectives are. And so far, like I said, the men have been a little bit more supportive, but I just haven't connected with enough women to really make a good judgment on, how they feel.
But I guess you understand the technological side. You mentioned that you were coming from a sort of tech background. Do you ever get drawn into those conversations? Because I mean, that's kind of quite a common thing when you start talking to people about it. You end up having to explain a little bit about the
definitely
cryptography or something like that. And
yeah.
Is that what happens when you talk to other women? I'm just speculating here because you might have a better handle on how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely not necessarily dumb it down, but I think with anybody, not just women, but anyone learning about Bitcoin for the first time, you really have to find ways to metaphorically explain it. How the public ledger works, and what what a decentralized currency even means, and you kind of almost get into this philosophical discussion about what the money in your pocket actually does and represents now, because most people don't even know that. Most people don't really even consider, how they value things, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin, and maybe it sounds kind of hyperbolic, but I feel like it's made me a better person, because I'm starting to think about, it's not about applying a certain price tag on things. It's looking at value. Each fraction of a Bitcoin has a potential value that we're looking further into the future than we ever have before. And by having that conversation of, what money really means and what value really means to you, kind of sets the stage for explaining why Bitcoin is such an important movement. And I honestly try not to talk about the technical aspects, because we've tried to do that over the years and people just gloss over, and I'd rather try to hold their attention with, the exciting things about it, rather than get into the humdrum of explaining how, SHA-256 works, and, I just try to stay away from that unless they're more interested, but I have not spoken to any women who want to really get into the nitty-gritty at this point.
Well, very cool, Miss P. We're gonna take 5 minutes for people that might want to go to the restroom or something, and you're still online, so anybody can talk to you that they want. But I at least everybody stand up and get the blood going a little, Because I did this, the mistake last time was I let this thing run too long and everybody got up and they're all stiff.
Can you see us on your screen?
And there are only 3 people.
Mrs. P?
3.
Chris, I can see you.
Hi. I'm from Austin.
Chris is talking about the Bitcoin economy. He's the guy that does the meat hardware. He's the guy that does the meat hardware. Bitcoin is the manager for a fire slave.
The whole thing about Bitcoin is
that's what Chris is talking about.
when you go back, you gotta take $100 and put it in my account. And you can go somewhere and buy something like a cell phone and be able to use that somewhere in the cloud and keep track of it if you lose it. And you don't have to think about it.
That's right.
Right now, I cannot get anybody to get a Bitcoin, including myself. On the too goddamn complicated.
Oh, I don't know if it's complicated. Like if you wanted to buy something from me, it would
most of these,
and it wouldn't be hard for you to send me.
but if it's something that's above it,
But
I know that. I have.
if you get $20
and gain $10.
see,
so these people.
this is my Bitcoin wallet that I have half a Bitcoin on.
Yeah, I have one person right now.
It's not if somebody still talks to my phone, if they get into
Got their
the phone,
plans, and now
it's got a
there's
little
integration with
security lock.
and all over
Get
the
into my
place.
phone,
We kind of, we talked about this, like, now you are.
Where
You're pushing.
they take that long. I'll get my Bitcoin.
They're on the integration page, so I just wrote them. Hey, I like your website, how easy it is. Sure.
Miss P, are you online?
Right.
Nope.
Hello?
I just wanted to say I was, all my guy friends have been talking to me about Bitcoin, and I've looked at it like they do more as like an investment or something like that. And so it's interesting, I personally operate in cash only, and I'm very much a privacy advocate.
Uh-huh.
And so like I say, for instance, I use ISQuick, not Google. It's a private search engine that uses the Google but encrypts everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So for me, you know, as you were talking, bye, Karen. It's so good to see you. Bye, Shanta. Y'all go to the drum circle. While you were talking, I also realized that it could solve just, let's say, if in my Bitcoin user account or whatever, not my savings or whatever, that I established, like, just, I don't know exactly how it works, but the one that I would be using, like, publicly, that would probably increase a lot of safety. So let's say if I'm hesitant about doing internet transactions with certain credit cards or debit cards,
Right.
I can see myself feeling safer only using Bitcoins and having like a separate, percentage of the pie for that process only. Do you think that safety goes up then?
I think so, because Bitcoin is really the perfect money for the internet, because we hold our anonymity pretty close, and that's out of safety. It really is. And by being able to make our transactions discreet, where we feel like there's not going to be anyone intruding on the patterns of the purchases that you're making. Nobody's going to be trying to belittle your habits by like advertising to you. None of that comes into play, and I think that's important, because that's one of the beautiful things about Bitcoin, is that we're keeping our lives private, and that's important. And I'm really glad that that's so important to you.
Yeah, to me that's a very salient point about the product, and I don't really look at it like a product or something to use, but it's funny the way that the ability that the feminine has to grow the product is primarily through, let's say, word of mouth or gossiping, and then spending, like two of women's worst qualities, generally speaking, can be used to just really develop the product. And just the idea about it just being something to make transactions easier, like highlighting the use, like you did with your grandparents, that it was applicable to their daily life. And anyway, so I'm excited. I'm looking at the product a little differently now. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. No. Thank you.
You've done everything you're supposed to. But it's not. It eats your card. The money blows in the wind. You try to grab it. You can't see the screen. It doesn't look the same. We deal with that all the time. That's all I'm saying. Okay, guys. Let's go to the next one. We're still running about 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes behind because of the great technical snafu, but that's okay. We can live with it. All right, we'll let's. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Good. All right, so you're up. I hope you enjoy seeing the crowd, because we're going to turn the light out again so that we can see you.
Okay, fine.
Where is Chris?
Chris, why don't you tell all about yourself and your travels from England to Belgium and all that stuff?
Well, that's probably going to take rather a long time, but I'll just kind of
give us the 2-minute or 1-minute version.
All right. Essentially, I'm from the UK originally. I trained as a product designer, and I worked in advertising and marketing for about 7 years before I retrained, learned C++, and moved into IT, where I've been for the last 15 years or so. With moving into IT, I actually moved over to Belgium for work, and I've been here ever since. And it's quite an interesting country for lots of reasons. One of the interesting reasons is that it has a rather large second economy, or a black economy, if you want to put it in those terms. It's partly due to the enormous taxation.
I'm sorry, I'm going to fix something here real quick. Technically, we're
overdriving the speakers. Ah, Lordy. Why did I adjust it? I should have just lived with it. Okay, talk now?
Is that a bit better?
Yeah,
You're not-
I don't know.
you're
It
not
got
getting
quiet,
feedback.
didn't it, guys?
Yeah, I got a lot quieter.
Let me go here. Come on, please bring your
Do you want me
stupid.
to talk a bit more? To see, is that any better?
No, it's my end. I silenced you somehow.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I can't adjust it on this end, I don't think.
Sound settings.
Yeah, at the bottom you have to select his.
Oh, did he get somebody that I can't see at that angle? I apologize. I'm so sorry. I should not have tried to adjust while you were live.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. I just can't hear you. What do you think is low, guys?
Go click on his person at the bottom left hand corner.
Yep. Click here.
No.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh. That. Yeah. There you go. And that should bring. Oh. There it is. Okay. All right. Well, that's the way it is. All right. Talk now.
Is that better? You can hear a lot better now?
Yeah. That's normal. Okay.
Okay, so essentially I've been here in Belgium for the last 15 years or so. One of the things that got me into Bitcoin was actually about 2 or 3 years ago. I was working on a private project, actually, a web retail outlet, and I was looking at the concept of developing virtual currency for this particular project. And I came across Bitcoin quite early on, almost as soon as it had come out, in fact. But I wasn't really clear about what the implications of it were, and so I continued to work on this other project for about a year or so, before realizing that all the problems that I'd come across were in fact already solved by Bitcoin. So that's kind of when I started to get more interested in it and to look into the technology itself. And here I've been ever since. I'm a lifetime member of the Bitcoin Foundation. I run a Bitcoin blog, and I'm a member of the Bitcoin Brussels meetup group, which is already, I believe, 70 strong. For such a small country, it has some interesting prospects for Bitcoin. But anyway, the purpose of this presentation actually is not about the Bitcoin economy, as the title was posted by Paul, I'm sorry, but is about the device that I'm working on with a group of 4 other guys here in Belgium. So I'm just going to share my screen here and just show you a short presentation. It's not a long one. Let's have a look. So I guess you can see that, can you?
Yep.
Right. Okay, so something I've observed really over, I went to the London Bitcoin conference earlier on this year, and I'm going to be on a panel at the Amsterdam Bitcoin conference in a couple of days' time, in fact. So, you know, one of the things I've noticed with the Bitcoin community is that we're generally kind of well-intentioned, honest people, mostly technicians, and we realise that we have something special here. And the way I like to put it is that I think Bitcoin is to money what Ford was to the horse. In fact, he managed to eliminate the horse within 15 years. And that's no mean feat at the beginning of the last century, but I think Bitcoin has the same kind of potential. The trouble is we have this huge problem in communicating what we know, not just to our friends and family, but I think in general the public are quite skeptical about what it is that Bitcoin not only represents, what it can do for you, and I think we saw from the presentation earlier, you know, it's hard to communicate to people exactly what it's about. They don't seem to sort of understand it. And you know, really, to the average person, Bitcoin is quite complex. But then so is money, and it's something that always ends up becoming part of the conversation point, which is the reason for the question to Miss P earlier on. So I began to think about this, and I thought, well, you know, if we want to promote Bitcoin in one form or another, we shouldn't try to get involved with the discussion about cryptography or mining, because these are not the issues that really engage people. They just, fundamentally, they want to know how they can get hold of Bitcoin and how they can spend it. And it's really as simple as that. So my feeling was always that we should try and demonstrate Bitcoin in action. And it's not just by saying, go to this website, buy some Bitcoins there, then go to another website that probably accepts Bitcoins. I know it's a virtual currency and it exists online, but it does exist offline as well. There are ways to use it offline. And I think until people actually have it in their hands, it's going to be quite a difficult sell to most people. But I want to take you back quite some time, actually, back to the 70s when I was growing up. In the UK, we had something like this, which is called a post office savings bank. And it's quite an interesting story, really, because after the Second World War, Britain, like many countries in Europe, was suffering from a lack of finances. And one of the ways in which a country can begin to get finances is to own a bank and have people save into that bank. And the way that they suggested to do it, and which became quite a common thing, was to have the local post office become your bank. And almost everybody I knew growing up had a post office savings book, which is what this is, and was encouraged to put small amounts of money in there. That money went into the economy, of course, and the government was able to use that to rebuild the country. But we didn't know that. We thought we were saving our own money. But of course, now we begin to realise that that's not quite how things work. Having said that, one of the genius aspects of Bitcoin is that it does really reflect in the way that it works some very long-held, tried and tested methods. And the blockchain, if you were to have created the blockchain perhaps 200 years ago, may have looked a bit like this. This is essentially a ledger. It has the amounts of money that you have in the account, the amounts of money that you're putting into the account, an authorization of some kind, and a new balance. And that's essentially all there is to the blockchain. It's a very simple concept that everybody can understand. Now, the reason why these savings books were important were because they were also given to children. There was no age limit on who could have a savings book. And parents used to give their children pocket money, and they would take the pocket money and they would go to their local post office and they would put it into their post office savings account, and they would begin to learn about the value of money, and they'd begin to understand the purpose of money. Now, I don't know if this sort of thing happened in the United States. It certainly didn't happen in Belgium. It's kind of quite unknown over here, but in the UK, it was very common. And of course, this used to be a regular thing. You would get pocket money, a small amount of pocket money every week for doing your chores or cleaning your bedroom or whatever it might be. But then after a while, you would have enough saved up that you could perhaps go out and spend some on some things that you might like. And by coincidence, the post office also was the local sweet shop. So they used to do a good business there. But the principles that were behind all of this are really the same kind of principles that you see with Bitcoin. And I have 2 young children, in fact, and I began to think about my childhood, think about what I was doing with the post office savings account. And I was thinking about how can I get my children to understand what Bitcoin is. And this is actually a fundamental question, because if you can't explain it to perhaps your children, then it becomes you begin to appreciate that there are some difficulties in just communicating the whole idea. And it seemed to me that if we could explain it to our children, or if we could demonstrate it in some way, then we would have something that would allow us to communicate to the wider world much more effectively. So, just to go back on these points here, the pocket money is important. It's about educating our children about money. But what's missing for me in the whole Bitcoin environment at the moment is that we're not really talking about education. We know that it has to happen, and it has to happen in order for a big take-up of Bitcoin at the grassroots level. It's not just something that I want to see existing online for a few select retailers who understand the technology. I want everybody to be using it, and I think that is the spirit of Bitcoin. So, thinking along these lines further, I came up with the concept of the Meek, which is essentially a fully autonomous hardware Bitcoin wallet. So in other words, you would be able to send Bitcoins from one device to another, and you'd be able to make that transaction anywhere in the world. So if there was somebody in the United States who wanted to send somebody in the UK something, it would work on the same principle that Bitcoin works on. There is different technology inside this. It's not quite the same technology that you would use online, because that normally requires some kind of third party to host this. But it would be acting like a pseudo node on the network. So going back to the point, I originally conceived Meek as an idea to educate my children. So as a parent, I could perhaps take some, I don't know if everybody is aware of what testnet is, but it's the parallel Bitcoin network that basically allows you to test any functionality of any devices with Bitcoins that are free and they don't have any value. So you can have as many as you like and you can spend them however you like, and it's not actually costing you any money. But the initial thought for the Meek device was to create a testnet-based device which would allow teachers and parents and anybody who was interested in educating their children about how to make payments to each other. So we designed this device to be quite simple to use, but at the same time we realized it was a policy that gives any product a kind of crossover appeal. It's something that Apple, of course, have championed their whole life, the whole company life is about trying to make it as simple as possible in order for the majority of people to be able to understand it. So fundamentally, the Meek device is about education, and it's what the community itself probably needs to start thinking about doing. The device is actually two-sided. If I just skip back to the original slide here, the front panel is very similar to a payment device. I don't think you have these yet in the States, but certainly in Europe we're used to the idea of making online payments with our card that inserts into a device, our credit card or debit card inserts into a device, and you use the chip in the card itself to authorize the payment. And this device here would be about the same sort of size and have the very simple functionality that those devices have. And those devices are used by young and old. They're really not too difficult to use. The back of the device here contains the QR code, which is essentially the Bitcoin address for the wallet, which is contained within the device itself. So it's not a remote wallet. It's not held anywhere else. It is actually contained inside the device itself. And this makes it a very secure proposition. The obvious question that always comes up when everyone's talking about this particular device is, well, you've got a smartphone today, why do you need a hardware wallet? And there are a number of reasons for that. And the first reason, probably first and foremost, is smartphones are by definition not anonymous. Cash is anonymous, we know that Bitcoin is pseudonymous, but smartphones are not. They're tracked, everything about them is tracked. The fact that you own one is tracked. The service providers track everything that you do, every call that you make, every transmission that you make across the internet is tracked at some point. So they're not, you couldn't really consider them anonymous. And I think this goes against the spirit of Bitcoin to a greater extent. The second aspect is a separate hardware device is by design and just by the simple fact of it being a separate hardware device, more secure. You can't have apps on a separate device with malware in them attacking that separate device. I wouldn't hold my hand up and say that a hardware device can't be hacked, because that's not true either, but for the most part, it's more secure than a smartphone. Generally, smartphone wallets in the Bitcoin environment rely on third-party services. They're either remote wallets or a hosted wallet somewhere. It's not really a wallet that is actually on the device itself. And in any case, for the two reasons above it, you probably wouldn't want to consider that all your money was held on your smartphone device. And the last one, and probably the most important one for me, apart from the first one, is that not all situations require a smartphone. If you were in a point of sale situation, or let's say, for example, a restaurant where you had a number of waiting staff there, each one of the waiting staff could hold one of these MIG devices and collect payments directly on the MIG device, which would be linked to a central MIG device. It's one of the aspects, and I won't go into too much of the technology of it, but the devices could be grouped together. And you wouldn't want your individual waiters to be taking payments directly on their smartphone. So you could see immediately there are situations where it's not really appropriate for individuals to use their smartphone to either receive or make payments. And that's one example, but I'm sure there are many similar examples which you could think of where you'd want to at least control who was receiving those payments. So the advantages of a separate hardware device is that the transactions remain anonymous, the hardware is secure by design, and one of the aspects that we're using in here is something called a deterministic wallet, which essentially means that when the device is initialized, you're able to determine what the private key is of the wallet, and from there you can always recover that private key even if you lose your device. Because of the way this device is designed, we're not using third-party services. It's a very simple device, not only to look at, but actually to use. And lastly, it can be used as a point-of-sale device. So that's basically it. These are a couple of details of my own, which I will let Paul. Well, Paul has these anyway, but I'm sure he can pass them on to you. And that's basically it. So I'm kind of open to questions on this. If I turn the screen sharing off now.
Can we see those contacts back?
Yeah, sure.
Contacts. That was awesome.
This, by the way, all the presentations will be on YouTube. They're actually being streamed to YouTube as we do this. But I'll be editing it up so that the presentations are separate so that you can watch them at your leisure later.
This would help if I could just.
I mean, that'll make it a little harder to see him, but he can.
Where's how much are these things?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are they?
What's your target price for the meat?
At the moment, we're kind of working on it. We're probably looking at something along the same lines as the Amazon, so it'll probably be around the Amazon Kindle. It'll be around $99, I think, for each unit. We're still a long way off from that. We're not thinking that we're going to have this ready anywhere before 2014. There's a lot of technology that's going into this, which needs to be tested and tried out. But but we're hoping to do that, as I say, initially with using the test net, so that we're going to be able to get groups of people, groups of children, whatever it might be, to use the device without any real cost to them to iron out any bugs and problems that we might have with it.
When you give me a price and a date and not a lot of talk,
Price and date. He said
It's still in development.
2014, $100.
$100.
2014.
And
still
are there
happening.
any Bitcoins in it when you buy it?
No, there wouldn't be, actually. The reason is because during the initialization phase, you'll need to set up your own wallet. We're using, as I said, a deterministic wallet process. That would allow you to recover your Bitcoins should you lose the wallet.
Why doesn't it have a wallet in it?
Well, it will have a wallet. The wallet just won't have anything in it.
One of the reasons for not having a wallet in it already set up is actually security. During the manufacturing phase, it would be possible for somebody to know what the private key is, and we don't want to have that. So we're looking at a situation where they cannot know what the private key is. They're essentially building a device that's...
That's working with trucks. Why don't you know what you're doing? Why can't you control what you're doing?
He's saying it's a security measure.
Yeah, but who has all
Yeah,
the
he sounds
information?
fair. You sound like you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, man. I'm excited. You know, I didn't realize that I was so paranoid about using my phone. I know Steve Wilkinson, he's like, you just do this and this with your phone and it's all done. And I'm just like, God, I don't want my phone to touch anybody else's phone. You know? I wanted to be safe, and I hadn't realized to verbalize it. I like the separations.
I do too.
I think I mean, obviously I would say this, but I think it makes sense. We all have wallets. We all have separate wallets today. We all use cash, and for a long time there will be this parallel economy. I mean, I have in Belgium, I have my identity card, I have my driving license, I have my health insurance thing. My private wallet is not going to go away anytime soon. So I don't see it as an issue that it is a separate hardware device from your telephone. But also, if you lose your telephone, how are you going to pay for the bus fare or the cab home if you lost your wallet? If everything is Bitcoin, you've lost your wallet as well. So, you know, I still think that there's a psychological advantage in having two separate devices.
You know,
I agree, but I want to buy them and give them away to people.
how can he buy them and give them away to people right now?
Right now, well, I'm afraid he can't. So we're not at that stage yet.
Not there yet. Yeah, you know, if you're going through the airports, people are concerned about the authorities checking your phone, and then instead of just having access to phone numbers, they have access to all kind of like bank accounts and everything. So, you know, separating the devices, and as you did, compare them with like the Kindle, which is primarily used, I guess, for reading, is applicable in this. So having separate electronic devices is still a user-friendly idea.
Well, it's also, you wouldn't, I mean, if you were that worried about it going through security, you could actually leave it at home. You could go to another country, buy another one, set it up with the same deterministic wallet, and your Bitcoins would appear in that device. So it's really much more
Travel with money.
flexible than that.
That's beautiful.
Well, the thing about deterministic wallets is that anytime you spend a Bitcoin out of a wallet, you decrease the security of that address.
Mm-hmm.
And so what people want to do is when they spend some Bitcoin out of an address, they want the change to go into a new address, and then the change to go to a new address. But if you're generating addresses all the time, then how do you back it up? You don't want to back it up every night. So that's where the deterministic wallet comes from. You can have a much bigger key. How big is your key for your deterministic wallet, Chris?
Well, it's more to do with the combination of factors that go into calculating the private key. Essentially, to explain what a deterministic wallet is to anybody who perhaps doesn't know what it is, you can use a regular expression. So let's say you could say the color of my car is blue. Now the color of your car might be red, but if you're able to remember that phrase, you will always be able to recover your bitcoins, because that phrase is then used and hashed into a private key, and from that private key your public key is created. So okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that. We're putting into place some more secure things, because it's possible that people could guess what your phrase is, and that's the one weakness of a deterministic wallet. But we're putting in some more aspects to it, which would hopefully make it a little bit harder to guess what that particular phrase might be, and other factors that go to make the wallet address.
How much competition do you have?
Say that again.
How much competition?
Competition. Well, there are other hardware wallets out there. They do different things. There's a wallet by a bunch of Czech guys, I believe, called the Trezor, which is a lot further down the line than we are. But essentially, it's not really a wallet. It's more like a safe. It allows you to sign transactions from your Bitcoin address, but it doesn't actually contain the Bitcoins on the wallet. It's nothing more than a signature mechanism. But as long as you have that, nobody else can sign your Bitcoins away from you. It actually just exists on that device, as far as I understand. And there's another device that I've seen. I think it was mentioned in the patent explanation earlier on, which is a device from Argentina. I can't remember the name of it, but essentially it is a device that you can charge up with a private key that contains a certain amount of Bitcoins on it, and you would literally give that device to somebody else, and that would be your payment. And there are a couple of other ones.
Nice.
Is your motivation making a profit on selling these beats?
Well, that would be one part of our business model. I don't really want to go into the other bit for the moment, because it's still kind of under discussion. We have a number of options, but we're also talking to some investors at the moment, so I don't really want to let that cat out of the bag.
Wow, that's exciting.
All right, well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Okay, at this point, this is all of our main presentations. I've talked to a few people who are willing to do some very quick, just 2 or 3 minute talks on some topics. John was going to talk about securing your laptop, and were you going to give an update on BitAngels?
Sure.
So, what do you think? We can either just do these quick presentations right now and get it over with, or we can take a minute to rest.
Check it out.
Jacob says go, and I always do what Jacob says. Well, we're actually, we only have about 8 minutes left in this room. Is that right, Jacob?
No, we have till 6.
We have till 6.
The next meeting is 6.
Okay. Well, so we have some time, but.
I got a piece of there, 30.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll just jump right into it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Okay, could I just interject here? It's actually nearly midnight here, so it was very kind of you to invite me to your session.
Speakers, so saluting somebody right now. 1 moment. Oh.
But I think I'm going to sign off now.
6 or 7 hours later.
All right.
Okay, he wants to say something.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, it was just I was saying that it's nearly midnight here now, and in fact I have to be up quite early tomorrow morning. But I'd just like to thank everybody for inviting me to come and speak here, and I would wish you all the best of luck, and hopefully, if ever I'm over in Austin, I'll come and visit you. But it's really nice to see such a nice crowd. Good to see some women at an event, which is really, it's good to see 5 there. So really impressed with that. And it's good night from Brussels.
Here, this is. Can you see the?
Oh, sir.
I can see that.
This is the Bitcoin cookies. When you send me an address, I'll mail you one of them.
Okay, well that sounds good. I'll do that.
Miss P, you're still on?
I'm still on, yeah.
Is Miss P on?
Yes, I'm here.
Your cookies are great. I ate one during the presentations. Anyway.
Okay. I'm glad that they survived the trip. I wasn't sure. I've never sent cookies from Hawaii to Texas before, so.
Yeah, they were perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So-
Cookies were delicious and they're fun.
Thank you very much, Chris and Miss P. And Miss P, you can certainly stay on. You've got another 5 hours. Yeah, she's behind instead of ahead. Okay. John, you want to go first? You go last? Okay.
How's everybody doing today? Companies we have coming through.
Google.
There we go. Google.
And all right.
Should we try this one more time?
Device still recording.
It might have.
Device still recording.
Did it turn it on?
No, because this is going to mute the broadcast.
Okay.
So and the broadcast goes to YouTube. So
Sorry, you guys have just got.
so if I don't have it on YouTube, all right, one more time. You know, I want to tell you something about this guy. I have a $600 camera, and I tried to record the previous mini Bitcoin conference. I turn it on this guy, and he overheats the thing.
Yes. That's
He
true.
burns it up.
My last presentation was lost to history as well. So got to capture it this time. So again, David Johnston, Executive Director at BitAngels. Just want to invite you guys to get involved. If you're a technical expert, we really need people that have development skills, marketing skills, compliance skills. If you're an investor, where basically the vision is to push forward new parts of the Bitcoin ecosystem. And so we're inviting everybody to join the group. It's grown really fast. We've gone from 25 people just showing up to the first meeting at the San Jose Bitcoin conference to 240 members today, which makes it one of the largest angel groups in the United States, which has really been amazing because we're sort of taking the Bitcoin ethos and applied it to an angel group, meaning we're decentralized. We're flat. We don't care where you live as long as you want to invest and be involved in Bitcoin. So all our meetings are held virtually, so anybody in the world, we have members in Asia, in Europe, in South America, and Africa. They can all attend virtually. We record the presentations. We push it out to all the members of the group so you can see all the new companies that are developing really cool new technology in new parts of the world, like the exchanges we're funding in South America, or the people doing new hardware technology, or more advanced features for Bitcoin. We recently funded a group called Mastercoin that's building a protocol on top of Bitcoin. And so there's a lot of cool activity. Just encourage everybody to go ahead and reach out to us. The website is bitangels.co, and you can email me at david@bitangels.co. So again, we're really trying to encourage people to invest social and intellectual capital. Even if you don't have a big pile of Bitcoins to invest, what people need is not a big pile of money. They need skills to build companies. And so that's what we're really encouraging people to do, is offer their skills to these new Bitcoin startups. And let's really accelerate these cool new things we all know are going to get built, and we want to see them done right, and we want to see them scale. So again, David Johnston, thanks for your time, and talk to you guys afterwards.
Nikos, do you have 2 minutes about Bitcoin Foundation or nothing?
I don't have something.
Okay, all right. You're up. You're last. Yeah, that's fine.
Nobody needs this stuff, right?
No. It's probably all bad anyway.
Yeah, okay, so on the topic of being able to go through borders without people looking at your data, or without, our awesome Homeland Security taking your laptop and burying your drive, and, if you're David Miranda going to the airport. And basically, I want to be able to do stuff on the internet without having to worry about traveling. I want to be able to send my laptop to get repairs and not have to worry about someone, infiltrating my laptop and copying my hard drive and getting all my data. I mean, the way this is set up right now, I could give it to anybody and none of you would be able to break this. I could give it to the NSA, and I could send this to the front door of the NSA and not have to worry about anybody ever cracking it. So what I'm going to go over is how I did that. And it's only one level of security. Of course, this is the hardware security. There's like software security. There's being anonymous on the internet. And of course, next time I'd like to give a talk over something I call a dead man switch, which is an easy way to destroy your laptop physically. That's a whole other topic. So the underlying technology I use is something called Lux. If you want to do this yourself, it's pretty simple to look up. Lux, it's the Linux thing, key thing. I don't know what the encryption stands for, or what the acronym stands for. Doesn't matter. So Lux
there's a couple of different technologies you can use for encrypting a file system. Lux is one of them. There's also another one called TrueCrypt. On a side note, TrueCrypt is awesome because it allows you to do something like create a folder and then put another container in the folder and then have 2 passwords for it. So like if the FBI came to you and you had a USB stick with the TrueCrypt file on it and they demanded the password from you, well, you could give them the password and only one of these containers would be open and they would never know that there was more data sitting inside them. So that's a cool way to transfer data. But for encrypting your entire computer with it, kind of slow, and there's things I didn't feel so safe about using it for a whole OS. So what I'm using is Lux. Part of Lux is a module that fits into the Linux kernel. Sorry if this is a little too technical. I mean, if you have any questions, you can pick up. But Lux is a module that fits into the Linux kernel. So what you end up with is, say this is kernel. This is our file system. It wouldn't really look like this. This would be Lux. So that if you have a program over here that needs to write data into the file system, you would talk to Lux first. Basically, it goes to this container in order to write your data to the file system. So it's a kernel module that sits inside the kernel, so that when your programs run and they make input and output operations to the file system, the kernel stores the secret key so that your programs don't have to know how to read and write to Lux. All they care about is writing to a file system, and the kernel handles all that encryption for you, and it's super fast. So that's just a little overview of what Lux is. Let's see.
Now, see, that's only good for Linux?
Only for Linux.
Okay.
Because Lux is it's a kernel plugin,
right,
kernel module. The reason that I went with Lux is that most distributions also ship with Lux, whereas TrueCrypt or DeEncrypt or EasyFS, those kinds of security models like mostly require you to recompile a kernel. Like Ubuntu has Lux built into it, whereas it doesn't have TrueCrypt built into it. So it's a little more than 3 minutes.
I'll give you 1 more minute.
We got till 6.
Yeah, no, we're not going to go to the 6.
They start at 6.
Do you guys want to leave? You can stop me.
No, let me ask this. Do you have anything for Windows and Mac?
No, but if you want to be secure, why are you using Windows?
Fair enough, fair enough. And so Lux you can run and secure your entire system, and TrueCrypt you can use to secure, I guess, a jump device.
So there's some caveats to using Lux, which is what I wanted to get into.
Okay, good.
Like
Run through some caveats.
The reason that I feel so secure with this thing. So the first part is that in Linux, there's memory that we call swap memory, which is memory that programs will use when they run out of actual physical RAM. And the thing with swap memory is if you don't encrypt it, that becomes a avenue of attack. Because anything that your program or that your computer was running before it got shut down that was written to swap memory, the NSA could go in there just to stuff the file system and they have all that raw data. So one of the things that I did, one of the tricks I did was my swap partition has a random key, 4096-bit key that's generated for it every time the computer boots up. So I don't even know the password for it. It will never be decrypted, ever. One of the caveats to doing that was that I couldn't do like suspend mode or hibernate mode with my computer because it has to write anything that's running in memory to the disk to go into suspend mode. So what I did with that is just something stupid, was I built the swap partition for suspend mode on the root file system, which is encrypted. So my partition layout kind of looks like this, where I have boot, swap, and then my root file system. And then in my root file system, I have a little swap file that I use for my suspense and stuff like that. But this is encrypted, and this is encrypted. For my root file system, what I do for the master key is also randomly generated. Cool thing with Lux is you can have multiple keys. So I think it's up to 10 or 13 keys. You can have multiple keys, so you can have a password, like a plain text password. Your key can be a picture on a USB stick, it can be an MP3 file, it can be anything. And my key, which I don't have plugged into here, I did something sneaky with it, which was the computer won't boot without this key. It's a USB key, and the file system on the USB key looks like this. There's the master boot record, and then there's the first file system on the disk. My keys sit between the first file system and the master boot record. So that if you put the key in a computer, you can put all the files you want in there, you can delete all the files, and no one will ever know what's in there. And I mean, you have to really dig into it to go and realize that that there was something sitting between the first partition and the master boot record. I mean, something cool you can do is the idea behind one of these USB keys is that they're small and easy to throw away. So like this could be one of these keys, and if I'm going through, the UK, God forbid, I would mail this to wherever I was going, or I would give it to somebody else. Because say my key was on here, which it's not. This, I mean, if they put pictures or MP3s or whatever, there's possible that they don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, if they want to seize my laptop, then by all means, I can't. There's no way to break into the laptop. There's no way to recover this data. Basically, the NSA would have to crack WikiLeaks' encryption model before I was concerned about mine.
So basically, that machine won't through unless you have that key in slot. All right.
Yeah, but basically the reason I wanted to do this is because I don't want to be afraid about what I think, about what I say, about what I order online, about how I spend my bitcoins. Like, I shouldn't have to feel worried when I get on the internet because I'm not the internet. That's how I put that.
Okay.
What is like the laws trying to forcing people to give up their passwords?
Okay, there was a ruling on that. And the ruling is that if it's in your head, they can't make you give it to them. But if you have it written down somewhere such that they can take it physically from you, then they get to do that.
And if it came down to it, I could just throw this in the trash.
No.
Now in the UK, it's jail time if you don't give them.
Oh, really? Jail time.
Oh,
that's why the password's randomly generated on this. Like, I don't have a way to give them a password.
You do suspend sometimes memory, for example. So you scrub memory because they can freeze your laptop and read the memory.
Well, assuming they catch me while my laptop's on.
Yeah, they thought they could, there's residual stuff in the RAM.
Yeah, actually, there is a kernel module that came with the. Yeah, I should actually have written down the link. You can search for Arch Wiki, the Arch Wiki Lux tutorial. Then the tutorial has a bunch of kernel modules and whatnot that I use for that. Like one of the kernel modules I had to install was it was like a replacement for urandom for the random device, so that I could speed through encrypting the entire partition before I put Lux on top of it. Because the idea is if you take a partition, you can put Lux on it, raw Lux. But if there's no data on the drive, then it's pretty easy to decrypt what's in there. So what I did was I took a terabyte drive, and it took about 36 hours, but I wrote random data to every byte of the drive. And it's completely random. So if somebody looks at the data, they don't know if it's real data or if it's just random data or anything, because it's all randomized. So more plausible deniability. a little bit of background. I also run Austin 2600, which is the Austin Hackers meetup. So there's that. That's why I'm interested in stuff like this.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this series, the second in the series. We'll have another one the third weekend of October. We're trying to shoot for third weekends in general. And the next one should be really good. I kind of gave you a preview of at least one good name. Chris has also got some good names from some people doing exchanges in the EU, and so getting somebody who's been behind the scenes setting up one of the real exchanges and actually having some time would be kind of cool. I don't know if that'll work out, but I'm just letting you know what I have. So anyway, thanks for coming. You're not being told you have to leave.
Steve invited me. My name's Mary Koenig. I go to Brand New Books a lot, and I'm a big activist. But my friend here, Shanta, and y'all might be familiar with the group. He works with EFF and also the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And also he helped put on the Protect the Fourth Amendment on the Fourth, so did a privacy advocacy thing at the Capitol. Restore the Fourth. Were you there?
No, but I've been to their meetups.
Okay, yeah, so he was part of that, and he left a little bit early. They also have crypto parties. So I heard a little bit of this kind of stuff there. So hopefully we'll get to do more with these guys.
Yeah, you guys should attend the EFF meetups. They're every Friday. Every Friday at Austin Pizza Garden off South Mopac.
What time is that?
Starts at 7, and they go to like 10. Food and beer and all that cool stuff. Not free.
Austin Pizza Garden. What are the cross streets?
It's right before William Cannon.
William and 35. Okay.
Not 35. Mopac.
And Mopac. Oh, right, the new development.
So, like, if you're going down South Mopac, like, it splits.
That's cool.
Like the left. You want to go down the right side. But
good. I'm gonna be there.
Is there a meetup for that?
Yeah. There's no meetup site, but if you just search like EFF Austin, it's really easy to find.
The judge you were talking about?
Yes.
Are we talking about the case that?
Yes.
Oh, you were talking about? What's your?
Gene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different case?
No.
He has apparently foregone contact with the judge. The case was held in the Eastern District.
Right.
Huh? The Nacogdoches. Which court was it?
I'm not sure if it's federal. Actually, no, it was the FCC.
Fifth Circuit, federal?
No, I'm not. Actually, I'm not sure. I'm FCC more than the.
Okay. Oh,
I think it's north of Dallas.
North of Dallas.
I believe, but I mean, don't quote me on that.
You've just been talking to his office?
Want to go get some beer?
Yeah, I called the office.
I think so. I think we're gonna.
Oh, by the way, my wife keeps saying you don't lie. Miss P, are you still there?
So the one that we know was back.
Well, anyway, if you are or you aren't, I'm ending the broadcast.
The
Bye bye.
The fellow in Belgium?
Yeah.